Winter has a way of sharpening a landscape. The air clears, crowds thin, and the light turns more dramatic. Yet for many travelers, the usual bargain of winter is too steep. Numb fingers, icy roads, and mornings that feel like an endurance sport. The good news is that Winter National Park doesn't have to mean polar conditions. In a few corners of the national park system, winter is the most comfortable season. Mild days, cool nights, and scenery that looks freshly washed. Here are 5 of the best winter national parks for people who hate the cold, ranked for warmth, accessibility, and the kind of winter beauty that doesn't require thermal heroics. Number 5. Everglades National Park, Florida. Winter in the Everglades is when the park feels most welcoming, because the Everglades' real enemy isn't cold, it's heat and humidity. From December through February, daytime highs commonly sit in the low to mid-70s Fahrenheit, with nights often in the 50s. That's sweater weather by South Florida standards, but for most visitors, it's ideal. Comfortable on the water, pleasant on the trails, and far less buggy than summer. This is also the Everglades at its most legible. The park protects the southern end of a vast river of grass, a slow-moving sheet of water that slides from Lake Okeechobee toward Florida Bay. In the wet season, water spreads wide and deep. In winter's dry season, it recedes, concentrating fish in shallow pools and drawing wildlife to predictable places. That seasonal rhythm is why winter is prime time for birding and wildlife watching. Wading birds, great egrets, herons, roseate spoonbills, work the shallows like patient hunters. Alligators bask along canal edges, often visible from boardwalks and short trails. For first-time visitors who want an easy, rewarding day, the Anhinga Trail near Royal Palm is a classic. A short, flat boardwalk where alligators can appear at startlingly close range, and anhingas dry their wings in the sun like living weather vanes. For a wider view of the ecosystem, drive the main park road toward Flamingo, watching for deer, raptors, and the changing vegetation as fresh water gives way to coastal mangrove. If you're curious about the park's human story, remember that this landscape has long been home to indigenous peoples, including the Miccosukee and Seminole, and that Everglades National Park, established in 1947, was created not around mountains or geysers, but around an ecosystem, a then radical idea in American conservation. Travel tips for winter. Bring sun protection even in January, and pack a light jacket for breezy boat rides. Guided wet walks and ranger programs can be excellent, but the simplest winter joy here is a calm paddle in the mangroves, where the water reflects a sky so wide it feels like a second horizon. Number 4. Joshua Tree National Park, California. If you want crisp air without true cold, Joshua Tree is a strong contender, especially for travelers who like to stay active. Winter days typically range from the upper 50s to upper 60s Fahrenheit, sometimes warmer in the sun, while nights can drop into the 30s. That night chill is real, but the park's winter magic happens in daylight. Clean light, long views, and a desert that finally feels comfortable to explore on foot. Joshua Tree sits at the meeting point of 2 deserts, the higher, cooler Mojave and the lower, warmer Colorado Desert. That overlap creates a botanical handshake zone where the park's namesake Joshua trees grow among creosote, cholla, and ocotillo. The Joshua tree itself isn't a tree at all but a yucca, and its range is sensitive enough that climate change has become part of the modern story of the park, an urgent reminder that even hardy-looking deserts have limits. Winter is hiking season. The Hidden Valley area offers short walks and classic boulder scenery, while the Barker Dam Trail combines a gentle loop with a lesson in human history. A small reservoir built by early cattle ranchers part of the complicated era when ranching and mining shaped this landscape long before it became a national park in 1994. For a bigger payoff without extreme exertion, Keys View provides a panoramic overlook on clear days. Salton Sea, Coachella Valley, and the geometry of distant mountain ranges. Joshua Tree is also one of the most accessible dark sky experiences in the lower 48. Winter nights arrive early, and the Milky Way can appear like a pale river overhead when the moon is low. If you hate cold, plan your stargazing strategically. Watch sunset, enjoy twilight, then retreat before the temperature drops too far. The park's rock formations retain a bit of warmth after sunny days, and a thermos of something hot can turn too cold into pleasantly crisp. Travel tips for winter? Dress in layers, and don't underestimate the desert's temperature swing. Start hikes mid-morning when the sun has had time to work, and if you're visiting on a weekend, arrive early. Winter is peak season here, precisely because the weather is so forgiving. Number 3. Saguaro National Park, Arizona. Tucson's signature park is a winter refuge for anyone who wants sunshine without sweat. Typical winter highs hover around the upper 60s to low 70s Fahrenheit, with nights often in the 40s. It's the kind of climate that makes you want to keep walking, and Saguaro rewards that impulse with a landscape that feels both stark and surprisingly alive. The park is split into two districts flanking Tucson: the Tucson Mountain District to the west and the Rincon Mountain District to the east. Both protect the iconic saguaro cactus, a species that can live 150 years or more and grows slowly enough to make time feel visible. A saguaro may take decades to sprout its first arm. In winter, many saguaros wear a subtle halo of bird activity. Gila woodpeckers and gilded flickers carve nest cavities, and later other birds move in. This is a desert built as much by animals as by plants. Culturally and historically, this is the Sonoran Desert, homeland to the Tohono O'odham and other indigenous communities whose relationships with the saguaro are deep and ceremonial. The saguaro's summer fruit harvest is a long-standing tradition, and understanding that context changes how you see the cactus, not as a prop in a postcard, but as a living presence with meaning. In winter, the scenic drives are a gentle introduction. In the West District, the Bajada Loop Drive offers pullouts and short trails through dense cactus forest, especially beautiful in low-angle light. In the East District, the Cactus Forest Loop Drive lives up to its name, with trails that let you step away from the road into quiet washes and rocky slopes. If you want a memorable winter hike without harsh conditions, choose a route with modest elevation and go in the morning. The air is cool and the sun stays friendly. Travel tips for winter. Bring water even when it doesn't feel hot. Dry air hides dehydration. A light windbreaker is useful for breezy overlooks. And keep an eye out for winter sunsets. The Sonoran Desert can turn purple and copper in minutes, with saguaros silhouetted like calligraphy. Number 2. Big Bend National Park, Texas. Big Bend is winter for people who want space, real space, the kind that makes the modern world feel temporarily small. The park sits along a great bend in the Rio Grande where Texas meets Mexico, and winter is its most popular season for a reason. Daytime highs in the lower elevations often land in the upper 60s to low 70s Fahrenheit, though weather varies with elevation. Nights can be cool, frequently in the 40s, and the Chisos Mountains can be colder, sometimes near freezing, yet the overall winter experience is far milder than most mountain parks. Big Bend's appeal is its variety. River canyons, desert basins, and a mountain island rising from the lowlands. That sky island effect creates pockets of different habitats, and winter is when you can comfortably sample them. In the Chisos Basin, trails climb into oak and pine, offering views that feel more like the American West than the stereotypical Texas plain. Down in the desert, the park's open basins stretch toward the horizon, with Ocotillo and Lechuguilla catching the light. The history here is layered and binational. Long before the park was established in 1944, this region was a corridor for indigenous peoples, ranchers, miners, and border communities whose lives were shaped by the river. Even today, Big Bend's sense of place is inseparable from the Rio Grande. In winter, when the air is clear, the river's green ribbon stands out against limestone and volcanic rock, and the canyons feel sculpted rather than merely eroded. For winter activities, Big Bend offers a rare menu. You can hike in the morning, take a scenic drive at midday, and end the day under some of the darkest skies in the continental United States. Santa Elena Canyon is a must-see. Towering walls and a trail that gives you a close look at the canyon's scale. If you want a quieter experience, explore the Ross Maxwell Scenic Drive with short stops and viewpoints. And if you're comfortable with water, a guided float on the Rio Grande can be one of the most memorable winter outings in the park. Cool air, sun overhead, and canyon walls amplifying the sense of distance from everything else. Travel tips for winter. Big Bend is remote. Fuel up before you enter, carry extra water, and expect limited cell service. Pack layers for temperature swings and consider spending at least 2 nights. The park is too large for a rushed visit, and winter's early sunsets make unhurried pacing feel natural. Number 1. Death Valley National Park, California and Nevada. For sheer winter comfort, Death Valley is hard to beat. And it surprises people because its name sounds like a warning. In summer, it is. In winter, it becomes one of the most approachable and visually dramatic parks in the country. Typical winter highs range from the mid-60s to low 70s Fahrenheit on the valley floor, with nights often in the 40s. That's not merely tolerable, it's actively pleasant for hiking, photography, and long scenic drives. Death Valley's story begins with extremes of geology and climate. It is the lowest point in North America at Badwater Basin, 282 feet below sea level, a salt flat that looks like a frozen lake made of light. The valley's mountains rise sharply from the basin, creating a vertical world where you can look up from below sea level to peaks over 11,000 feet. That top-to-bottom relief shapes everything: rainfall patterns, temperature, and the park's starkly different zones. Winter is when the park's famous features are easiest to experience on foot. At Mesquite Flat sand dunes, you can walk into a landscape of rippling sand without the punishing heat that defines the warmer months. At Artist's Drive, volcanic minerals stain the hillsides in greens, reds, and purples, especially vivid in winter light. Zabriskie Point and Dante's View offer opposing perspectives, one looking into the Badlands folds, the other surveying the valley from far above. And if winter storms have been generous, the desert may even show a rare flush of green in low areas, a quiet prelude to spring wildflowers rather than the full spectacle some years bring. Death Valley also has a human history that complicates the emptiness. The Timbisha Shoshone have long-standing ties to this region, and their presence continues today. Later came mining booms, including borax operations that helped build the valley's industrial legend. 20 mule teams hauling heavy loads across harsh terrain, an image that became part of Western folklore. You can still see remnants of that era in historic sites and the way roads trace old routes through the basin. Travel tips for winter. Don't be fooled by the mild temperatures into underpreparing. Distances are large and services are limited. Carry water, keep your gas tank comfortably above empty, and check road conditions if you plan to explore beyond the main paved routes. For the best comfort, plan hikes late morning to mid-afternoon when the sun has warmed the air, and save scenic overlooks for golden hour when the valley's shadows carve the landscape into layers. A final note for winter travelers who dislike cold. Mild doesn't mean unchanging. Deserts and subtropical wetlands both come with their own winter quirks: wind, sudden rain, chilly nights, and strong sun that can burn even in January. The strategy is simple and effective. Layers you can shed, a light insulated jacket for evenings, sturdy shoes, and enough water to treat every hike like it's happening in a dry climate. Because in most of these parks, it is. Winter is often framed as an off-season, but in these 5 parks, it's the most human season, the one that lets you linger. You can stand among saguaros with the sun on your shoulders, walk a salt flat in shirt sleeves, paddle through mangroves without swatting at clouds of insects, and watch a desert sky darken into stars without bracing against bitter air. For anyone who hates the cold, that's not a compromise. It's an invitation to see America's wild places at their clearest.